Alrighty guys, here we are with match number 2 of the day. Cynic versus Elysium. First Doctor match here actually. Gonna be quite interesting to see here on the Coal Tower. We have Ultra already finding out Xeno here, I believe, at this pallet gem tile. Does have a filler pallet to work with as well. The corrupt generators are towards the main side of the map. Pre-dropping the pallet super early. Whoever the survivor is, I believe it's still Xeno, is not joking at all. What do you think, Spoke? Oh wait, it's V1.
I'm actually kind of surprised we don't spot out Xeno here instead of getting caught over on the left side of the map here. But yeah, V1 not mucking around at all, straight to business. No mucking around. We're going to take the chase back over to the corrupt side of the map, and I would only imagine that Xeno, Granat, and Kix have been able to rotate back around and start working on these active generators as this chase is now being taken in the most optimal spot. But a beautiful zap from Ultra is going to stop. Never mind, no, it's not.
And the blind coming out. That's crazy.
No. Xeno gonna come in with the pallets done and almost chain blinds to completely lose track of V1. And not even gonna go for Xeno either, just gonna go straight back to where we should be cutting V1 off and push them back over towards the shack.
Yeah, I believe Ultra was a little bit discombobulated there for a second, following a bunch of different scratch marks. Xeno doing a very well job helping out his teammate here. Gets the shocks onto V1, but V1 still has his pallet here to work with as well. Very interesting plays coming out. Gets the hit take as well. Xeno, absolutely phenomenal team plays coming out. Shack pallet has already been dropped though, so resources here are looking slim, but still has this jungle gym pallet to work with. Locker play coming out possibly, but does get the grab. That's going to be the first down of the game. First unique stage. However, 2 generators have already been completed. Does have a hill hook here to work with, although there's no real generators around. Does actually decide to hook more towards the middle of the map, denying any possibility of Scourge Hook Pain Resonance coming out. But honestly, I think it's the better play considering that it's closer to generators.
Oh, I think we actually just managed to get some info onto where V1 went as we just snapped him into tier 3 with the big static blast, and the unhook is going to happen onto Xeno. Up straight into the killer here. Are we even going to make it over pallet before the base kit BT runs out? But with the shock, the pallet isn't going to be able to get dropped, and Xeno might be going back down again unless we see some body blocks, which we do from Granat, who's going to be taking that tag. Xeno going to be dropping the pallet and just continuing to loop around that, waste as much time as possible. This aggressive playstyle is really not that bad, to be honest, as we do have survivors nearby to be taking hits to keep Xeno alive, and we are going to be having gens getting worked on in the distance, but at the risk of everyone being injured.
Dude, Elysium is actually looking super tanky with these team plays, I'm not even gonna lie. But Xeno now has his pallet gem to work with. Instead of looping the one side, is gonna actually make the interesting play of trying to loop around the lockers. Does not end up being successful at all. Ultra checking the locker for any possible head-on play that could be coming out, I believe. But that's gonna be the second stage. Going on to Xeno, I believe here. Does get a hook on the hill in this area. Although the 3 generators more towards the top of the map, so doesn't really have much pressure with that hook. Ultra, I believe, will opt to just leave and head towards possibly main building here, getting info with the shock. Now has everyone shocked at least once, so could possibly apply some pressure with the snap out of it. Now is in chase with Granat, denying the pallet there. I believe this will probably be a hit. No, I think Granat will not make the pallet in time because Doctors are going to spam shots, you know. That what Doctor is good at. However, something what? He missed it. Has to just head back to the hook. Phenomenal movement coming out for Granat. Absolutely fire movement. What can I say, bro?
The most fire movement we've seen, and Xeno in a bit. As we do also see, I believe that's Kexo coming in for bodies if needs be, running around the outskirts of the shack here. Xeno on the death hook with still 3 generators left to be completed. A lot of resets needed to happen onto V1 and Granat, but Xeno is back on his own once again at this pallet gym, lobbing it. He's going to make it over. Ultra not going to be able to hit that one, I'm afraid, but Xeno is still zoned to this pallet gym with nowhere else to really break away to. He's going to be able to make it back to the pallet though. Ultra not quite being able to land the shock. Xeno is going to be absolutely having a time of his life here, as he should be able to rotate back up towards another filler pallet here, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it seems that Zeno is absolutely juicing up, denying the kill for as long as possible, although something to note is that this game is still on 3 generators remaining, even with how good the cases have been in this situation. Ultra has... What is happening? Brinout wasn't able to get the hit take, and that's going to be the down on the Zeno. This is a death, possibly, unless somehow there's multiple hit takes coming through. 20 million hits required, although Zeno, the death will happen in this situation. Ultra might be actually be in a pretty much a better position here. However, the generators are pretty much split up completely, so Elysium definitely still has a lot to work with in this scenario. Now in chase with Kexo. Another hit take coming out. Maybe it's because of these hit takes that there hasn't been a ton of generator progress this game, as you would think. But what? Completely denies the window. That's going to be the down on the Kexo.
And Ultra's actually just going to break the door, and we know that V1 wasn't too far away. Green bubble in the distance as well. Not going to be committing for that, though. We should be able to pull off a pain res hook here. If this is, in fact, a Scourge hook, this regression is going to be absolutely huge. We do see it hit that gen over at the top left side of the map. Gens are obviously very painfully split for Ultra, but if Ultra can somehow get an elimination onto Kexo before the last gen gets done, which with one survivor injured and people having to snap back to tier 1 and Kexo in tier 3 on the hook, things could definitely be really, really tough, as Ultra also not being able to find anyone with that static blast. The reset needs to happen before the save can happen, right? And we still need 2 gens to get done. And if we get that elimination before the last gen gets done, we can definitely get a well above average performance for Doctor.
Yeah, that is true. And all the generators, I believe, are pretty much kind of in a line on one side of the map. But what are we looking at here as far as perks go? We still have Hex, No One Escapes Death to use towards the end game, which might be able to, I think, definitely produce some sort of pressure for Ultra if all the generators do manage to be completed here. However, this is going to be the second stage in the Kexo if Ultra forces this correctly, which he did. Wow, very interesting. However, Shack Generator already has a lot of progress. Grinout still stealthing for the save. Ultra just trying to use his chalk to locate any survivor possible. Has Sloppy Butcher to work with as well on V1. No reset has come out regarding that. But Grinout still just looking for the save. Might be able to get it, might not be able to get it. Does end up getting the save, though survivors might be able to go for a bit of a reset here. However, that's going to be everyone in the trial injured now.
And the worst part about it as well is that both Grinout and Kexo are both in tier 3, but Ultra needs to hard commit to Kexo right now. And with that shot, there's no way that Kexo can vault the window. Gonna go for that swing from the heavens, but not quite gonna be able to land. Perfectly timed shock, not gonna be able to drop the pallet. And it's just a matter of time before Kexo goes down here again. And with both of our survivors injured as well. Oh, he hits those. Ultra is insane. Oh my goodness, that's elimination number 2. Before all the gens even get done. So even if there's an adrenaline coming out or something like that, or resets happening before the last gen gets popped, the Noah's just going to come into play and just secure either a 4K or a 9 stage.
Ill has 2 stacks of pain resonance remaining as well, just to completely deny any sort of generator progress that could happen. I believe pain resonance is actually 25% of a generator now for a unique stage. So that's definitely looking strong as a regression perk. Does apply the shocks on a Grinout, as this is a survivor that's been found. Might be an easy find on the V1 as well later on, once Ultra is able to get the down on the Grinout, which looks like it's going to be happening right now. V1 is currently injured, however, has already snapped out of it. And we'll just go ahead. Ultra here is hooking Grinout by main building. Any generator progress will be denied in this situation, and it's probably going to be Ultra playing towards the hatch.
Wow. V1 was so close to popping that gen before the pain res hit, and after seeing the illusionary Doctor, we know exactly where the last survivor up right now, and this is good. This looks like it's going to be a 4K at 1 from the Herman Carter from Ultra on the Cold Tower. That's honestly not something you're going to see very often. It's really unfortunate that the aggressive playstyle that Elysium was taking into this has not really worked out at the end of the day. But with this down onto V1 and getting put up onto the hook, that's the 4K1 confirmed.
Yeah, definitely a good idea from Cynic picking Doc. It has worked out for them so far. I would say that a 4K1 is a very strong result, especially for Doc. So it's not going to be an easy win condition for Elysium here, but very good performance coming out from Ultra. Ultra is absolutely cranked up, applying the juice onto Elysium as Doc.
Doc of all killers.
Doc.
It's so insane, but Ultra is just built different like that. It's so nice to see. And with that 4K1, I believe our scores are going to be at 8 points to Elysium and 28 points to Cynic going into this one. So 4K2 to beat, it's going to be really tough. So we're going to load up the next trial and let's see what Elysium can do on the dock after a short break.
Yo, here we are, back on the Cold Tower on the Macmillan Estate. Yet another Doc game. Xeno running Corrupt, Save the Best for Last, Gorge Hook, Pain Resonance, and Sloppy Butcher already finding out the survivors early. That is one of Doctor's strengths, is you can just use your ability, find whatever survivors you manage to find by shocking. However, already in chase with Ultra here. Xeno might want to get some sort of revenge on Ultra for the ping difference. He's going to be shocking the main pallet. Might be able to force a hit here if played correctly. Very strong hit on the Ultra. Now Ultra, all he has to work with here is the main window. Xeno not choosing to break the wall, so Ultra can possibly just continue to loop around here unless Xeno has perfect accuracy with his shocks. But so far, very well played on the killer side.
And Xeno's just timing these shocks so perfectly so that Ultra can't wrap around and make it back to that window. And there's not a chance that Ultra will make it to this pallet either. Can't dodge the shock. We do make it over to this, I believe Ormantile is what they call it these days, but Ultra's going to be able to get the drop on. Should be able to get the vault as well, but doesn't actually go for it and will take the down as the first gen is getting completed. And I feel like Xeno has sort of really learnt from that last trial and decided to bring in Save the Best for Last. So hopefully we don't see too many hit taking from the Obsession, as Stabiffle can really come into play later on in the trial and help get that 4K a little quicker. So we'll have to see how that works out for him, but we're going to go with the Static Blast and get some info on two of our survivors, on Nev and Angels, Claudette and Nia respectively, as we go for a chase around the water tower. It's good that we're not on the Obsession just yet.
Say that again, you said Stabiffle?
Stabiffle, yes.
Stabiffle. STB. Yeah, that is a way of saying Save the Best for Last. That's funny. Save the Best for Last and Sloppy Butcher, definitely very strong perks against hit taking. Xeno stacking up in that department, as that's actually, I believe, what you want to go for a Doctor in a lot of scenarios, considering that the teams are gonna try and take hits for each other. However, Cynic is just trying to get as much generator pressure as possible here. They're with this early hook on the Ultra, they're probably trying to play for that tiebreaker, at least at this point. Xeno, if he wants to win, if he wants to drive Elysium to the winning position of this set, he has to 4K at 2 generators remaining, which is very hard to do, especially on a killer such as Doctor, when you're not playing one of those killers like Spirit, Nurse, or Blight. So Cynic definitely still has opportunity here.
Oh yeah, 100%. But with Ultra almost being eliminated, as we managed to get Claudette and Nia both into tier 3, both just snapping out of it now, that just means that they wouldn't have been spending any time on gens, as Ace is going to be popping our second gen of the trial. And my goodness, there's no way that our survivors are going to be able to come for the rescue here, as Xeno just has the perfect vantage point. We do see someone else sneaking in though. We have Angels as well as Lusty as well on the Ace. We have our Obsession getting the pull, but the shot comes through and the rescue doesn't even happen. Then Nia tries to go for it, but Stabiffle's coming into play.
What is happening, bro? I think they had the 2-man save and then Lusty let go or something?
Lusty got hit by the shock.
Just made some sort of phenomenal... Wait, Lusty got hit by a shock.
Yeah.
Is that what's happened? Oh,
I believe so, yeah.
Absolutely 5-head. Although didn't he? So I guess he like pre-shocked and then got the hit onto Angels.
Yeah,
Designed
because
to save.
it takes, so obviously it takes 2 shock therapy hits to get someone into tier run, right? So that was his first hit. So there we go. Now he's in tier 1 because he's been shocked for the 2nd time. That first shot being canceling the hook save. Oh no.
Yeah. Save the best for last is definitely proving its value on Doc though. I think that is something to note down. Save the best for last, Sloppy Butcher. Probably one of the strongest combos you can go for in Doc, I think. Maybe might be a better option than running Hex No One Escapes Death, especially with this current win condition you have here. Definitely a good build coming out. And Ultra last game didn't really get any use out of Hex No One Escapes Death just because he did manage to get the 4K at 1 generator. So save the best for last is definitely proving useful for Xeno here. Maybe might commit to a chase on Lusty here. The generator did get completed in the distance by Neb. However, that's going to be 2nd stage being forced onto Angels. So Xeno looking pretty strong in the situation, has a lot of pressure. Elysium might be able to meet this win condition here, maybe. Just spamming out the static blast, that's funny.
Now, it is something to be nervous about, though, is the fact that we've had 3 generators getting completed, and if a 4th gen were to be done, then that would be, I believe, the tie condition as we saw the 4K one just previously. The win condition for our survivors of Cynic right now is to get all gens done, and with Ultra being eliminated so early with the unfortunate mishaps over on the road, we see our survivors coming in for the double. We go for the shock onto Lusty, but we miss it. We want to keep those Biffle stacks as much as possible. We miss our 2nd stack as well. What? We get the tag.
The survivor on the hook.
Oh no!
Angels on the hook. That's kind of toxic, you know.
Oh,
He does it again. What is happening, bro? Gets the hit onto Nev finally, but had to hit Angels twice. The DBD at its finest. However, Angels does have the tasting on the pallet stun, and that's gonna be the death on the Angels, I believe, if Xeno can locate a hook in time. Lusty is in the healthy state though, so maybe a hit take could come out here, although I don't think it's gonna happen. As far as generator progress, the one with the most progress is more towards the shack side of the map, while the main generators have less progress. So Survivor taking early pathing towards shack. I believe this might be Nev? I don't see any blood pulls though, but I think it's actually... No, it is Nev, I was correct. And Xeno trying to outplay the shack pallet, however did miss a shock there. However, Nev will still just continue looping the shack, but Xeno missing all the shocks, predicting the window vault, just goes ahead and breaks the pallet. Smartest thing Xeno can do there, I think, and we'll just continue to chase. However, a main generator might be being worked on at the moment. So, as long as Nev can stay alive for long enough here, they might be able to meet that tie condition.
And we're going to be seeing the old classic comp corner as Xeno does with that first lunge, and that's enough time for the 4th gen to be getting completed now at this point for Cynic. In order for them to get the set point here, they have to either get the last gen done or get the hatch or one of the doors if it comes to it. But good luck trying to get an out against a Doctor if the doors are too close. Now, we are going to go for the slug to try and find Lusty. Obviously, we're going to know where Nev is almost at all times because of the tier 3, but Lusty is doing Lusty things and being in that locker over towards the top right-hand side of the map, and Xeno's going to be checking around, but I think Lusty should be able to hide for just long enough.
Yeah, Lusty has to make the stealth plays of his life in this scenario if they might even want to meet the win condition in this scenario if you're Cynic. However, Xeno is probably just going to let this generator progress here. Best play. 3 pistons are clicking though, so that generator did have at least, I believe it'd be 70% progress or 60%, something like that. But that's definitely the generator you're going to be looking at if you're Cynic. And I think Zeno, probably the best play, which he did, was dropping Nev and looking for Lusty. Although Lusty's just in a locker chilling, Zeno would never expect this. Nev is right next to a hook, so Zeno can safely pick up and just get the hook in this scenario. Already has the generators regressing, so pretty confident that a generator cannot be completed at this point. However, Lusty can possibly make a save here in this scenario.
Yeah, but Lusty's still sort of hopping in lockers around the same area. Should be able to get into position for the rescue now. Obviously, gens are kind of out the window at this point, and we're thinking about it. Are we gonna? Yeah, we're back. Gonna get back in that locker. And
yeah, he's just playing the lockers, man.
yeah, well, DBD is now turning into that hide and seek game like it used to be back in 2016. At this point of the trial, as Nev has to hang up on the hook and Zeno has to check around and try and find where Lusty has been stealthing all this time, and we're checking almost every single locker at the main building. And by the time we see Nev going into second stage and then potentially even to elimination, we have to see if Lusty's going to be able to make that hatch play. But we should also get some good eyes on where we saw those doors as well, because that is a potential point of escape for Lusty. Now, we do have a door at the top left. I'm not too sure where the other one is, though.
Yeah, so something to note about lockers, and that other door is by the shack as well.
Yeah.
So Zeno is definitely in a good spot here, can easily force the hatch. So maybe you ask yourself, should Nev have maybe crawled away from the shack? I don't know. But lockers are completely denying any possibility of shock, so definitely well played by Lusty. The doors are looking pretty split up here in this scenario. However, Zeno just quickly shocking around, see if he can maybe locate Lusty, looking around for any crows flying in the distance as well. But Lusty proving to be an absolutely just phenomenal stealth player, embracing the hide and seek nature of Dead by Daylight that once did exist and can still be a decent tactic at some points in the game. Still going for the shocks, which is quite interesting. I think Lusty is trying to play the door on the other side of the map though, which is kind of a smart play. Zeno finally decides to close the hatch and will check the other door. He does have the hill vantage point here. However, Cold Tower proving to be efficient, blocking all the doors. The red light's on. He didn't try to go for any 30% or anything. And we'll just go into chase here with Lusty. Lusty has to possibly lose Zeno here in this situation.
I don't think you're going to be able to do that against a Doc with his power available. I'm really upset that Lusty didn't go for an opportunity to, go for a locker near where the door is and try and at least bait out the static blast. But with this chase, it's either going to be endgame collapse or it's going to be by Zeno's hands himself with the 7 stacks of Stabiffle. That final score should be looking at about 8 points to the tiebreaker, sorry, because we both got 4K1. That would be 36 all. Oy, oy, oy. This
is the day of tiebreakers, to be honest. I feel like the majority of games so far today have actually been 4K1 in. The only reason the first set wasn't a tiebreaker, I think it was because of a -2 and the last game of Paradox versus Karma. So there's been a lot of 4K1s today. I guess that's kind of the common result here.
I said it earlier and I'm gonna say it again, it just goes to show how strong these matchups have been tonight. And Zeno doing a little bit of Stabiffle enjoying here with those 3 stacks, being able to hit on the hook a little bit faster. But wow, I'm really impressed with how on par our teams have been performing, especially with Paradox going from having to go against Eternal and I believe it was either Sequence or even Elysium. It was Sequence. And now Cynic is up against Elysium and we've got another tiebreaker.
Yeah, we've got some more Doc gameplay coming right up. Very interesting on the builds though as well, running Residual Manifest Ultra. That's a pretty interesting perk with the flashlight applying the blindness onto Zeno whenever he gets a blind. However, I don't think there were any blinds that really came out that game.
Not from what I saw either, to be honest.
Yeah. Anyway, more dog gameplay coming right up after a short break. Alrighty, and here we are back on the cold tower, the cop tower, clock tower, however you want to say it. Xeno opting to use the same build of Corrupt, Save the Best for Last, Scorch, Pain Resonant, and Sloppy Butcher. I really feel like that doubling down on hit takes is definitely quite a strong option. Save the Best for Last and Sloppy Butcher. However, already finds out Lusty, classic Doc, finding survivors super early. There's really no point in delting against them. Does get the pallet stun, the NA to EU pallet stun on the Shack pallet, looking strong, wasting the Shack pallet, something that is unheard of in comp, definitely.
Absolutely unheard of, punishable by death, or elimination we should say. But first real chase, so we're going on to Angels here, not going to be able to drop the pallet in time, and once again we are going to be seeing the exact same build coming out from Xeno with the Stabiffle, Sloppy, Corrupt, and Pain Resonance. It'll be interesting to see if we can keep up with those Pain Res stacks, because normally when you go for a tunneler, you can struggle to get that mode of regression, but with this shock that we just got from Xeno and predicting the breakaway as well, the pallet drop coming through as well, which is perfect. Ultra, a non-obsession, is going to be taking a hit, and that little bit of Stabiffle recovery time might be enough to even get the down here. Oh!
That is like... How fast was that chase? Like 10 seconds, 15 seconds? Xeno proving his strength here on the dock, facing the rock, completely denying any possibility of any sort of flashlight save. Does off the hook more towards the center of the board here. Does have the main generator to the left and right of main. And yeah, pretty much just generators all around this hook. Definitely a smart play. Did get the Scourge Hook Pain Resonance value down as well. However, he is able to completely pressure this main generator as well. Shocking. At this point, all the survivors in the game are at least tier 1. However, it doesn't look like any of them are tier 2 really. So definitely still quite a bit of shocks before any snap out of it value.
Yeah, I feel like that really comes into play as we get towards the mid to late game of the trial. Even it can happen early on as well, depending on position themselves. Sorry, I think my microphone is having a bit of a... But the shocks can really come into play mostly during the mid game, but also early game depending on survivor positioning and that sort of stuff. But once again, Ultra being the first survivor on the hook must really be taking a dent on Ultra's morale. We are going to be getting some shocks over onto Lusty, which is nice to see. We are going to see the second stage just come through as we harass Lusty off the gen a little bit more. We still have a decent amount of Stabiffle stacks if a double save were to come through. We haven't got the reset onto Nia yet, so let's get some info.
Yeah, this game's kind of playing out in a similar way to the last early hook as well at 4 gens, but I feel like the way Xeno has this hook and the generators are positioned, also judging by the generators that Cynic chose to work on in this scenario, I mean, that hook is proving to be very good pressure. Xeno just kind of asserting dominance with his shocks here. However, Lusty is the only nearby survivor, I believe. He might actually be able to force death onto Ultra in this scenario just by applying the shock on the hook. Skill check being failed over towards the left of main. Does manage to get the save. Very well played, Lusty, sneaking in last second, getting the save on Ultra. Ultra has to try and survive for as long as possible here, possibly with hit takes coming out from his team, maybe, if they're quick enough. However, what? Xeno absolutely applying the juice on Ultra. That's going to be a death at 3 generators, it looks like. No possibility for any sort of hit take. And Ultra's going to be dead. Does get the regression here towards the main side as well. Still has a big 3 gen as well.
Yeah, but we do hear a decent amount of gen pressure from the survivors, though, especially the gen just near where Ultra was eliminated. Now, still yet to reset Angels, who's been injured for quite a long time, and Lusty has been working on this gen quite some time as well. we haven't been able to utilize much of our other pain res stacks as of just yet, but taking a chase onto our obsession here, unfortunately, we just have to, as we can't just let Lusty work that gen for free. We get the tier 3, that's what we came for. Lusty has to snap out before getting back on that gen, and that should give Xeno enough time to rotate back over and catch out any survivors working on this gen. And we see some pools of blood, we see some scratch marks, we see Angels over by the main building. Are we going to be able to catch them?
Yeah, now in chase with Angels here, possibly following the blood trails, but Xeno is just kind of going for some, instead of hit and run, it's shock and run. Generator completion! Very well played by Neb. Cynic is, okay, hits the locker somehow. A very interesting game. However, does get yet again another save the best for last Stabiffle stack here. That'll be the 5th stack so far. And now has 2 survivors injured, so they might be looking for resets. That's going to be a quick down on the Neb. 6 stacks to save the best for last now. Will go ahead and go for this center hook here. Probably a smart play coming out from Xeno in this situation. Elysium might be able to confirm a 4K on 2 gens, possibly, since generator pressure might be lacking here from the survivors, and they might have to go for resets. However, does find out Angels here as this pallet gem is forced to break the pallet. However, Xeno will head back towards the hook. And I believe Lusty was lurking near this generator as it gets completed. Very well played from Cynic.
Wow, I'm actually really surprised that Xeno just let that gen go for free. He knew, very much so knew that Lusty was working on the generator over here. Instead, decided to try and get the down onto Angels, but the dropped pallet being unbroken at the pallet gem just denied that. We are going to be getting a tag onto Lusty and getting back to hook, but is Angels going to be able to get there in time? Instead, Lusty is going to be taking the chase pretty close to the sun here.
Yeah.
Oh, it's tense.
Xeno's just kind of, he's doing the hit and run tactics, doing the shock and run tactics, trying to get everyone into tier 3, so they have no choice but to snap out of it. That's going to be all survivors now in tier 3, just have to say it. Wasn't able to deny that pallet because of the innate EU, I believe, even with the shock detonation delay add-ons, but pretty much just able to camp this hook out. And yeah, Xeno might be able to just completely force death onto Nev here. Has the information from all survivors being in tier 3, knowing that none of them can work on generators. However, Lusty being forced to snap out of it does manage to get the job done. Angels now as well. However, if they want to get the save here in this situation, they're gonna probably have to reset, and I don't think they have enough generator progress to get any gen done in time, so they're definitely gonna be looking for the save here in this scenario. Oh, okay, casters first.
Boy!
Cynic's chin pressure absolutely cranked out the wazoo this time.
Wow, so we are going to be seeing the 5th gen getting done, and we're going to be catching up with Lusty here. Both of our survivors are fresh hooks, so it doesn't matter who we go for here. The 2 stacks of pain res are going to be to no avail. Xeno needs to go back and check on the other door, as we know that Angels was going to be last seen in the mid-map. Is now over down by the shack. Does have head-on, is out of range at that shock, which does actually come through. Xeno has used the static blast and is going to try and look around to the ends of the earth to find where Angel is stealthing. But I think at this point, Xeno might just have to count his chickens before they hatch and get the hook onto Lusty and go over to back and forth between the doors. But even then, that's a very scary position to be in, because not only do you have to watch both of the doors, you have to watch the hook, but you have to also watch Shack for the hatch.
Yeah, the hatch is a possibility in this scenario, and Xeno, he really just wasn't able to apply as much pressure to generators in this situation as I think he would have wanted to. Those generators really got completed quite quick, and Xeno, I mean, it's kind of just showing the 4v1 aspect of this game as Killer. You have to be aware of so many different things at once. Definitely takes a lot of skill, especially when you're facing a strong team such as Cynic. All of the DBDLeague Season 8 teams, I mean, they've just been absolutely phenomenal so far. Xeno looking for any possibility, any trace of Angels, who is not even hiding in a locker to deny the possibility of shock. I guess he just realizes that he's far enough away and will just continue to stealth. However, does have head-on as an option, so can play Lockers quite safe, although Angels is injured, so if Zeno gets close enough, he'll be able to hear the Locker. Head-on, I mean, it is good production, I'd say. Does find Angels as well.
Oh, we were laughing a bit too soon there. Oh no, that's really, really unfortunate for Angels. Now, Zeno just has to find where Lusty has gone to before the bleed out happens, because I think bleed outs should still award all points, if I'm not mistaken, unless fresh hook or dead hook in case of tiebreaker. I remember Barn very specifically telling me the bleed out rules before going into this, but now I'm doing a Barn and getting it wrong. So we are going to be finding Lusty. There's no bleed out coming into play this trial. And in this next intermission, I'm going to do some research because I don't want to get it wrong.
So I think that Elysium has to get an out in this situation, right?
Yeah, because Elysium's going to be on the survivor side in this next trial, and they have to have at least a stage out the door or the hatch with all gens done as well. Or if a fresh hook survivor escapes through the hatch, that would also be a win for Elysium, but only in those scenarios, and if there's only one gen remaining when that fresh hatch escape happens. So there's really not a whole lot of options for this win con without it being get the gens done and get someone out.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, Zeno, absolute tank. But definitely no pressure to Elysium here, hopefully, in this situation, because they do have to do better than the performance that they showed in their last Survivor game earlier versus Ultra's Doctor. Maybe Ultra might choose to go for Zeno's build of save the best for last, Floppy Butcher, to possibly just not play towards the endgame and instead try to get all kills before all generators are completed. And save the best for last, Floppy Butcher has proven quite strong for Zeno. So maybe no, just isn't really worth it.
That is very, very true, but we also need to take into account that endgame perks will be quite viable in this scenario, as the win con is to not let survivors get out, or sorry, tie con is for survivors to not get out the door, and win con 4k1. So we'll just have to wait and see what Ultra is going to be bringing going into this, but I guess we'll find out right after a short break.
Alrighty guys, welcome back. Here we are, back on the Cold Tower. Ultra once again playing Doctor. Although we did have Zeno for the past 2 games as Doctor, but Elysium has finally switched over to Survivor, and hopefully something happens here, because I believe I'm with everyone when I say this. If I have to see another Doc game, I will cry. Already finding out Zeno, who is looping the main palette. Now, what Zeno has to do here is he has to try to last for as long as possible. And in the previous games with Zeno as killer, we have seen some early downs. But Zeno might be able to prove his skill here, using the main window for distance. But Ultra might try and actually somehow outplay this window. Although Zeno has run to the top of the main building, so maybe a balanced landing play coming out. I didn't really catch the perks, but didn't even look like it. I think Zeno just took the fall damage there, and Ultra does manage to get the down on the Zeno. However, it's on a pallet, so is there a pallet save coming out? Not at all. Ultra will just be able to go for a hook here towards the main building side of the map, and Elysium already getting some generator progress on.
Now, I think Ultra would be comfortable knowing that there would be any balanced landing in the trial, because Doctor is obviously such a powerful killer. We need to not allow a variety of perks, and being a tier 4 killer, there's not going to be any exhaustion perks coming into play at all, except for head-on. That's the one and only. I'm pretty sure that's allowed. I know we have seen some spicy head-ons, but Yeah, thankfully no balance landing against the Herman Carter. I think we're both getting put into a bit of tier 3 here at the moment, both in madness with how close these games have been and the tie result from the first trial, but the win con has been made very, very clear. And our survivors of Elysium right now have got some insane gen pressure to make up for it, as I'm not going to get hit by the caster's curse this time. We're going to have a gen popping very soon with another one after that, probably about 20 seconds or so.
Yeah, I think Elysium really just going for these generators here, trying to get as much progress as possible, because you have to beat, if you're Elysium in this scenario, you have to get all of the generators done. However, they are kind of putting themselves into a 3-gen situation at the same time, with that final gen on the Shack side of the map already being at 80% progress. However, that's going to be tier 3 on the Kexo, very well played by Ultra, forcing the snap out of it, just stalling for a little bit more time, as it was either Grinout or V1 on this side of the main building, possibly trying to go for a save in this scenario. However, Ultra really tried to force it into a 2-man save scenario where they have to have 2 survivors in order to get to the unhook, and that's exactly what Elysium is going to try and do in this scenario. However, Doc's hook pressure is actually super strong, proven to be incredibly strong here. Very well played by Elysium. They do manage to get the unhook on the Xeno. Ultra just going to try and commit to the tunnel out. However, Xeno has a lot to work with here in this situation, and if he can make it to that Shack side of the map, that'd be even more to work with.
I have to say that is the most scripted fire barrel placement I have seen in my life, allowing that double save to happen, and the hit went on to V1 instead of our unhooker, and Xeno now has a little bit more time to spare to get away. We also have Kexo in a bit of a rough position here as well. Doesn't actually vault the pallet though. Ultra expecting the vault, doubled back to get that slug onto Kexo to then go right back onto Xeno, who very quickly drops this mid-area pallet. We have what looks like Kexo trying to take it down. Oh, we don't make those, do we? No, Ultra. We know you're strong, but that's too strong. It'd be a bit too unfair if we're hitting those, but we are going to get the slug onto Kexo, and shortly followed by the slug onto Xeno, unless he can make it to Shack, sorry. We see the 4th gen getting completed in the distance, and with the win con being to 4K1 for Ultra, it's looking less and less realistic, but okay, Ultra, you've made your point. I'm sorry.
Yeah, if Elysium wants to pull through here, they do have to get that final gen done to at least tie it and get any sort of escape, or I guess a bleed out possibly, but if you're listening here, you're really playing for the escapes at this point, because you have the pressure necessary to get all the generators done, eventually getting out, and Ultra doesn't have any in-game perks, so maybe no one escapes death would have been a shout in this game, but I think Sloppy Butcher saved the best for last is still quite strong. Gets the hook a little bit further away from the gen than I think he would have liked, but didn't get any score drop. Does get the final to Grinnell in the walker. Grinnell, what are you doing?
Wait. With this locker grab, he could get the 4K1 still, which would be the win con if he were to get V1 before any unhook could happen. He needs to not let that main building gen pop, and his power is still a fair bit away from coming back. We're not going to be able to get a tier 3 here, as V1 isn't tier 1, but we do have ears on that main building, and this is very much so Problems team right now.
Yeah, as long as audio occlusion works out for Ultra in this game, he might actually be able to get the 4K on 1 generator. I mean, that locker grab completely changes things in this game. And if you're V1 in this scenario, you have to make some crazy incognito survivor plays in order to stealth your way over to either Grinout or Kexo, who are both on their first hook, but Kexo now entering the second stage. Ultra trying to get as much value out of Static Blast as possible, but V1 now knows from comms from his teammate that Static Blast is now gone, or could have heard it from across the map, so a little bit safer for V1 to kind of approach the hooks here, and doing some 500 IQ crouch plays as he's walking towards his hook. He's gonna be able to get the save.
Wow. That's insane that V1 was able to get the save there. That's huge. We're also going to be missing out on... We have to go back to the other hook and make sure we get the elimination onto Kexo. Huh?
That was a very interesting hitbox on the track there that I noticed. That's been in the game for a while in Cold Tower, where you're looping around the track and there's just an invisible wall there. So.
Oh yeah, actually I know why that happens.
Yeah.
It's a D-League issue, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, no, it gets the elimination onto Kexo, but that invisible hitbox is logs that are supposed to spawn that don't actually spawn, but their hitbox is still there. So fun fact about Cold Tower.
Yeah. That's definitely an interesting one. However, V1 in this scenario is just playing the top of the main building, is going to go down for it, and Grinout injured as well. Tier 2, so might scream at any point. Wait, no, that was a nasty, never mind. Yeah, Grinout probably just playing the lockers here, possibly, if you... Never mind. Ultra gets the find on a Grinout. Ultra with the ears of the century might be able to down Grinout here in this scenario if Grinout can't make it over to V1 and is running in the complete opposite direction. It's also going to be quite hard for V1 to try and force a bleed out in this scenario just because they're currently in tier 3.
Grinout still having an absolutely insane chase over by the shack here, but obviously we know Unbreakable is not going to be coming into play, so it really is just a race to try and get the slug back over, but we're hearing V1 screaming off in the distance. She is way too far away for the pickup to be happening. Very strong pallet here though, the eye tile. It's going to get broken as we're going to be taking the chase back over, but even if we do manage to get the pickup onto V1, right? Which, actually, wait, no, you can't do it because you're in tier 3. I just realized.
Wait, Grinout is in tier 3.
Yeah.
Oh, I just realized that as well. That's a good shout. Yeah, there's absolute... Ultra just gets the swing. Grinout tasted on that one. The NA West to Russian ping. Very strong. However, Ultra is just going to go ahead and hook in the basement here. Not losing any hooks. And I think can pretty much just guarantee that there's going to be a hook no matter what. Since he's near the basement, there's a hook mid-map there as well that's not broken. But Ultra going for 2 survivors in the basement. And that's going to be the dub for Cynic on the first set here.
Wow. It's nice to see that Cynic did end up winning their pick of killer after going into a tie. And the final scores for this set obviously being 38-36 in favor of Cynic. Just that one gen difference. And we don't really want to put all the blame onto poor Granout, who got caught out in the locker. But it certainly did change the tides of the game. Yeah. Ultra has just done a phenomenal job to bring this back for Cynic. And yeah, wow. We're going to be going on to the Mastermind next. How are you feeling about it, Squill?
Wesker, I love Wesker, man. Wesker absolutely cracked. It is Elysium's pick, Wesker, so definitely going to be interesting to see. Although Ultra does have some experience playing as the Mastermind. However, Elysium does have Kexo, who I believe is a Mastermind main, so we'll see that coming out, see how it goes. Mastermind is one of the most well-designed killers, in my opinion, that behavior has ever released, of course, followed by Skull Merchant and Knight, unfortunately. But yeah, Mastermind's a fun one.
All right, we're going to be seeing that right after a short break. Alrighty, welcome back in everyone to the Cold Tower for week 3 of the DBDLeague, where we're going to be seeing Kexo being a little bit too impatient at the window there, but Kexo is going to be on the Wesker here against Cynic's survivors now. A bit of a slow start though, not being able to get that first tag at the main building, but we are going to be rotating away to try and catch out the early generator enjoyers and see if we can get some tags or a shack pallet.
Yeah, a lot of Mac Millions going to be played within this matchup of Cynic versus Elysium as well. Once again on the Cold Tower for Mastermind. This is going to be hit on the Ultra though. early hit coming out at 5 generators wasn't even the first survivor found. I believe Kexo did manage to find Lusty first as well. That's kind of a quick find for Mastermind, I'd say, considering you don't really have that potential that Doc does to easily find survivors, but Kexo did manage to get it done as the Western main that he is. Gets the down on the Ultra with the power. Very well played by Kexo, completely shutting down that L wall, and will manage to get a hook, I believe, towards the middle of the map here at Water Tower, and quite a few generators around, I believe, as well. Yeah, there's gonna be one here at this rock filler pallet that's kind of near Shack, one inside of the Shack, a lot of generators towards the Shack side of the map. So looking like Kexo is in a pretty good position here. Especially finding out Angels as well. It's the mind game.
Wow, the potential value of just holding it up and walking around the entire loop probably twice or so and still getting that hit is beautiful. But we're going to be seeing Nev coming in with the For the People onto Ultra to try and prevent that tunnel out. Ultra's going to go off and go get a spray done. Now, something really interesting I learned today is that if you had someone else spraying the infection off of you, they are the ones that get the killer instinct. Wow. Beautiful dodges, by the way, from Nev at the TL here. But yeah, the killer instinct prompts on whoever's using the spray.
Yeah, and that's going to be the down onto Nev. I believe this is a unique stage coming out as well. So more Scourge Hook Pain Resonance value going to be coming out in combination with Pop, honestly, which I find kind of interesting. I think Bamboozle is also a pretty strong perk on Wesker, but Kexo has opted for the Brutal Strength, which has proven to be quite strong as well. You're able to get rid of those pallets quickly to catch up with your power. Look at that pallet break. Look how quick that is. Kexo will just immediately be able to catch back up the Angels in this situation. Meanwhile, the save on the Nev happens and gets the down on the Angels. Very well played by Kexo. Is that the third unique stage of the game already?
It looks like it's gonna be, and with that, it would also be the third stack of the Pain Resonance. We know that that hook has been a very much so reused Scourge hook, so make sure that all our survivors are getting their tetanus shots, so no one is getting sick after this trial. We also do have Pop to still utilize as well, which the combination of Pain Res and Pop can just really be absolutely decimating, because if you have a gen so close to completion, it gets hit by Pain Res. In a lot of scenarios, you'd normally be able to have someone doubled up on it and get it completed, but ow! I'm blind. That was a blast mine. That's going to be stopping that Pop Goes the Weasel to be happening. But we do get the slat onto Angels. So unfortunately, we couldn't get a collateral hit off of Ultra. But we are going to get Angels into the deep wound, and we'll be right for the picking for the tunnel out.
Hey, very well played with a borrowed time hit take, though. I think if you can get that borrowed time hit, it puts you in a pretty good situation as Survivor, because you have another healthy teammate that can then come and possibly take a hit for you later. Angels kind of just prolonging this chase versus Kexo. Has a little bit to work with here on this side of the map as well. Has this jungle gym pallet, a filler pallet nearby, as well as the main. Misses the pallet stone.
No.
Wait, decisive strike. Very well played. Well, that pallet drop was still pretty interesting, but they have a lot of gen pressure done. Only one generator left, 4 generators completed. Misses the hit as well on the Angels. Kexo, I mean, you're in a pretty rough situation here, even with the 3 unique stages. That's 3 points awarded for each survivor that's been hooked. Might look for a hook here on Lusty if you're Kexo in this situation, just to play for those points, but does manage to find out Neb, who is running by the main building. However, that Shack generator might be getting done all the way across the map.
Yeah, we would have to hope so, as there's only one of them that needs to... The Brutal Strength zoning is going to be coming out. We're going to be able to push Nev over towards the edge of the map here, but Kexo has the bound trigonometry down to the T. Oh my goodness, that was beautiful. I think that's going to be second stage for Nev, and we're obviously going to opt for a hook closer to where our gens are, so that hopefully we can stop that last gen from popping. With that pop goes the Weasel, which comes in very handy, especially when you're trying to tunnel out a survivor. You're not really going to be getting as much value from the pain res, and that's what the pop's for. We hear survivors on this 4-lane gen, but Ultra's not going to be able to get it done in time, and is also going to be having that sprint burst 99. Ow!
Blast Mud coming out as well. That's going to stall so much time as the survivors, Cynic, are able to work on a generator all the way across the map. Though they're probably just going to be completely ignoring this generator that's near the rock pillar here. Near miss coming out from Kexo has proven that he has the juice with the Virulent Bound, I believe it's called, on Wesker. A very strong power hit so far. However, thought he was gonna maybe break the pallet, but just finds out Angels towards this side of the map. Angels is also on second hook as well. But Nev getting injured. Nev is on death hook. So if Kexo can maybe eliminate Nev here and get some pop goes the Weasel value, never mind. The generator was already completed. Nev's gonna be running towards the corner of the map. And if you're Cynic here in this situation, you're gonna be looking for a 3-out. Kexo looking to deny that 3-out, maybe see if he can find out Lusty, who still has yet to be hooked this game. That would award 3 points.
Yeah, no. He definitely wants to find Lusty right now, but all of our survivors are ready to go out that door on the right-hand side, and Nev is going to be slugged over at this top corner. We're going to go back for that pick and take the 5 stage. I think that would be the end result, as Nev was our dead hook survivor, and I'm sure Kexo should have been very nervous when they were playing very aggressive towards the end of the game, and there's Nev right where we left her. Time to go up on the hook and out of the trial, but a 5 stage is a very, very tough result to be getting for Kexo, for Elysium, especially on their pick of killer as well. Cynic just going absolutely insane on the survivor side here, with 18 points awarded to their accounts here and 10 to Elysium. That 8-point difference. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful performance coming out from Cynic on the survivor side, even with those clean hits coming out from Kexo on the Virulent Bound. However, even with the pressure, Cynic still manages to just push through those generators time and time again. Even in that dock game where Xeno was getting a lot of downs, Cynic's gen pressure just proven to be so strong. And that pretty much just comes down to the communication and the coordination between the teammates.
And speaking of communication, the scores have actually been jotted down as 17 points to Cynic and 13 points to Elysium. So a bit of a miscommunication from me there. Sorry, team, but still a doable win condition to beat, I believe, is 6 stages. So let's see if Cynic's killer can get it done, and we'll find out after the break. All right, welcome back everyone to the Cold Tower, to what could be the deciding game between Cynic and Elysium. Cynic with a bit of the Elysium with a bit of the upper hand. Oh, sorry, no, Cynic, yeah. Their survivor's performance was absolutely insane, with only a 5-stage 3 fresh in the last trial, and we're taking our first chase here. Ultra on the west coast, gonna be getting stung by that pallet. Smash hit coming into play, if I'm not mistaken. Or it could
Yeah, I
just
believe
be
that one smash hit.
as well.
Yeah. Kexo already applying the juice onto Ultra here in this situation. Wait, he got that main vault instantly. Okay, drop downs and DBD are definitely pretty interesting. But yeah, very well played by Kexo. Ultra is forced to go around that pallet actually, just because Survivor can actually pull off a play where even if Wesker vaults the pallet, you can like time it to where you're forced into vaulting without getting hit by Wesker. So, however, and there it is, demonstrated right there by the juicer himself, Xeno. Ultra forced to break the pallet in this situation with brutal strength coming out. We're also running Scourge Hook Pain Resonance, and no one escapes stab. Corrupt is almost out though, and so far Ultra has not managed to get any hits this game. as now he gets the hit on the Xeno. The Xeno going to make as much distance as possible as Ultra just stun lock there in animation before he can vault the window. So Xeno able to just completely get distance to exactly where he wants as his teammates are communicating the generators being completed. Ultra trying to mind game the pallet. I don't think it's really going to work. It's not super easy to do as Wesker, and not entirely sure if it's possible in this pallet.
No, there's only very specific scenarios where that could be possible. But speaking of scenarios, we saw Xeno getting a 5-gen chase against General Blight's Wesker up against Sequence last week, but that's not going to be happening in this game. Ultra's going to be shutting that down before it happens again. We also saw a Survivor slow vaulting the window in main, and I'm sure Ultra's going to be very well aware of that as well. Not even going to break the pallet, instead going for this Survivor up in the main building. We just got to spot out where they've gone, and they're not up in the top, so a little bit of problems for Ultra not being able to spot out that Survivor. Now we have the time to break this pallet over at the main building, and we have lost our first generator, potentially second one. Yep, there it is. Curse, I knew it was coming, but there's a lot of gen pressure on the board from Elysium right now, and things are looking scary.
Yeah, I mean, things are still pretty much neck and neck though, just because of how good of a Survivor result that Cynic was able to get last game. So Ultra has a lot of room here to kind of play how he wants. Yeah, he does have that safety net of the good score on Survivor. 17 points, Cynic had 13 on Elysium. However, this is going to be second stage onto Xeno here, but there should be a generator being completed in the distance sometime soon. Yep, there it is, as that generator was 50% earlier. And Ultra has now managed to find out Kexo, the Wesker of last game, will get a hit onto him and might just go back to the hook as well to continue pressuring Xeno. Maybe force the tunnel out.
But it looks like that Ultra's actually going for Kexo here in favor of going for the Painris stacks, as Xeno's been unhooked across the ways, and going for the dead hook Survivor right now would be kind of optimal, but we also need a bit of slowdown as well. Wait for that firecracker to go out. We need to be so patient here, but Ultra goes for it. It doesn't connect either. We should be able to see Kexo make it. Oh, no pallet over here. It is the window side of the 4 lane. That is going to be the down, and the 4th gen getting complete as well. We need that pain res, and we need it now. This is our second fresh hook of the trial. We do need to get 3 fresh hooks and 6 stages in total in order for Ultra to meet the win condition for Cynic, but the last gen is getting done.
Oh, what are we, like 2 minutes into the trial and all generators have already been completed? What is happening? Elysium absolutely cracked on the gen progress.
If we find laser right now.
Excuse me, Ultra applying the juice onto Brown, who tasted the window vault. What has happened?
You know what this means, right?
Wait.
If we hook Granout here and force the elimination onto Granout, hook near the Noed totem, that will be the win for Cynic.
Yeah, they have to cleanse Noed here in this situation. However, Xeno does get a blind, but not really going to make anything happen off of it, nor is there any residual manifest in play. So, but Noed is right here, right by the hook. If you're, I mean, is this going to force a tie condition pretty much?
This will be the win con if Granout gets eliminated on hook here, as we're going to be getting 6 stages with 3 fresh hooks. So, yeah.
So
this would be the win for Cynic.
Yeah, Granout was the 4th fresh hook. That's absolutely cracked play coming through from Ultra. Now, yeah, I mean, they are going to have a very hard time getting that Noah cleanse. However, they can get the save onto Granout. Very well played coming in from Kexo. Good coordination from Elysium. However, that's going to be a down on the people. Kexo, but for the people coming out from Laser, very well played. So if they get the outs here, that's going to be a tie condition.
Potentially, yeah. I'm not too sure how many stages Kexo's worth, but
they have to get a 4 out here, I think. if they want to win, they have to get a 4 out. Elysium has to get a 4 out in this situation.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, this is like as nail biting close as it can be. Yeah. If they get the reset going, oh, they have to get forced out. There's 2 survivors getting pushed out, and Laser still broken from the For the People is the only one who can. And Laser gets the rescue. Michaela Reed coming in clutch, going over to the back part of main now. As it stands right now, we are currently at tie condition. We
Reset on the Grinout though.
It's a Grinout. Oh, this could be big if we take the hit before
No power
we
charge
get
yet.
to the gate.
Finally charged. However, I think he's waiting for that
here we
second
go.
stack maybe. But Grinout coming through with the hit takes. It's down to the last second here. He gets it down to the Kexo. Very well played from Ultra. That's going to be possibly a hook unless Grinout can somehow take 50 million hits, but I don't think it's going to happen. Ultra's just able to get the death onto Kexo, and that's going to spell the win for Cynic in the situation. We can pretty much call it here. Cynic, I believe, has won versus Elysium 2-0.
Yeah, everything about that end game was so beautiful. The survivors of Elysium being able to cleanse the Noid, get the rescue, get some resets happening, and trade stages to the point where the Tycon is met, just for it all to fall apart at the very last moment possible at the exit gate with our Kexo getting grabbed by Ultra. Oh my goodness, that is going to be the end game of the ages, and putting the final scores at 32 points to Cynic and 29 to Elysium, giving Cynic the 2-0 victory over Elysium. And I am absolutely lost